Hi and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be doing a bookshelf tour. So I'm going to show you all the books that I have and we're just going to talk about them. I love talking about books, so this video can get a little long, so please get comfortable, grab a drink and let's get started. Okay, I have two bookshelves over here. I also have some books on my desk and on my dresser, but I'll show you those later. Let's start with my bookshelves first. So first I'm going to give a little overview of my shelves. I have my books sorted by genre. So the first two shelves are classics. Then over here is another shelf of classics. And then here I have fantasy. Now, before you comment, I am aware Yellow Face and the Inheritance games are not fantasy books. I have these books here because I think they look nice with the other hardcovers, but I know that they are not fantasy. So some books are not in their respective categories because I think they look better over here. And then here we have historical fiction and then booktok books. Here we have contemporary lit and then young adult all the way to here. And then the lowest shelves are two shelves of non-fiction books. So let's get into the shelves in more detail now. Let's start on top actually. And I'm not that tall, so I'm going to need a stepping stool. Let me grab one. Here on top of my bookshelf we have a lot of dust. These black bookshelves are beautiful, but they collect so much dust. So please ignore all the dust you see. With books we have two beautiful collections of Jane Austen books. They're both illustrated editions, so I'm really happy with those. I found them at a grocery store. I think they were selling them for like €2 each. And I have now 6 books of Jane Austen in these two collections. In this one there's Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park and Persuasion. And in this one there's Sense and Sensibility, Emma and Northanger Abbey. These editions are very big, so I just love putting them on top of my bookshelf like this. And next to these books there's this little guy keeping them company, and I love how he looks on top of my bookshelves. So moving on to the right we have a little candle here, and then 2 little owls that I got from a family friend. I think they look very nice here on top of my bookshelf. And then there's a little bag from Dior. There's nothing in the bag, don't worry. All of my bookshelves are covered in these leaves, by the way, and there's a fake pot hanging over my bookshelves over here. And there's also twinkly lights all over my bookshelf, so I love the way that looks. Okay, so let's start at the first shelf. On the far left side we have Lady Chatterley's Lover over here. This is actually my only Penguin cloth bound that I own. I think these editions are very beautiful, but I also think they're very expensive, so I usually don't get them. But this one I found thrifted and it was only €1.50, so I decided to get it. Then I have 3 vintage editions over here. We have The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter, A Movable Feet by Hemingway. I actually thought when I bought this, I bought it secondhand and actually thought there was a coffee stain because it's kind of this weird orange and there's actually white over here, so it was very confusing. But then I saw this book in store and I saw that all of the editions had this stain over here, so it's actually not a coffee but a design choice. And then lastly we have Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. I really like these vintage editions. I also think the inside is very beautiful. The font and the paper of these editions is very nice. So I recently started collecting these editions. And I have 3 of them right now. You're gonna see a pattern that most of my books are thrifted. That's also why I have so many random versions. I mean, there are already a lot of versions on this shelf. That's because I love buying books secondhand, and when you're thrifting you don't know what you're gonna get, so that's why I have all these different versions of books, but I like that. So the next book is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and this is actually a Penguin Orange Collection edition, and I've actually never seen these editions. They are very interesting because they have a lot going on the cover. They also have deckled edges, so maybe that's why they're not so popular, but yeah, I really like it. I have yet to read this book as well, so that's something to look forward to. Then we have 2 modern library editions. The first one is Tender as the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and the second one is Middlemarch by George Eliot. I noticed that most of the Penguin books have something of orange in them, so I tried to group those together. Other than that, there's not really a system in these shelves. So I just put together, I try to put the same editions together, but other than that, It's just what I think looks nice together. So I believe Middlemarch and If on the Winter's Night a Traveler are the only books I got firsthand because I bought them for book clubs. The other books, I believe all of them are thrifted or secondhand, except for Emma, but we'll get to there. Then we have 1984, Roald Dahl's Kiss Kiss, which is short stories, and I think they're all very dark and sinister, so it's something different than his children books. And then we have this cute little edition of Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own. I've never seen these editions before. These are Bloomsbury Classics, and I've never seen them before. They're very tiny, but they are hardcover, so they look very cute. I've actually started reading this book and I really liked it, so I can't wait to finish it. Then moving on to the right, we have 2 editions of Charles Dickens' Pickwick Papers. I think I got them like 2 for 50 cents, and that's why I have 2 of them. So if anyone needs to read the Pickwick Papers, I have a spare copy. Again, the penguin is very orange, and then this one is a Wordsworth classic. I believe the penguin edition also has illustrations, so that will be very fun to read. Then we have Emma by Jane Austen. I actually was gifted this book by the parents of my brother's girlfriend. They gifted me this book last year, and I think it just looks so cute. Very beautiful with the gold and the pink, so I can't wait to read this edition. And then lastly, over here we have this whole stack of Wordsworth classics. All of these are secondhand. Someone donated them to the thrift store and I found them. I couldn't just separate them, so I got them all. There are some great classics in here. We have Pride and Prejudice, some Bronte sisters, Thomas Hardy, Ulysses. I really like the way this looks stacked on top of each other because the pictures all align. So yeah, that's the first shelf of classics, so let's move on to the next shelf. Okay, so now we're at the second shelf of classics, and first here we have Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. I really like this edition. I got it from my friend. She gifted it to me on my birthday, and I think it just looks so pretty, so thank you so much. I do hate that my Dickens are separated, but I think all these black spines look great together, so I've put Dickens over here. Then next to Dickens we have the Phantom of the Opera. I have this Dutch edition that I got thrifting, and it has this rose, so I decided to put it next to this rose. I love the Phantom of the Opera. It's such a fun classic. Then over here we have this beautiful rose. It's kind of inspired by the rose from Beauty and the Beast. I was gifted this rose and I love it so much. It looks so great on my bookshelves. So I'm really grateful to the person who gifted this rose to me. Next to the rose I have my Penguin Black Spines. These are the new editions with the white penguin, but then here we have the older editions with the orange. I don't know why these don't match up. They're all different heights. I really hate that. I love the black spines. I think they look so beautiful. So firstly we have the Count of Monte Cristo. Now you can really obviously see which book has been read and which one hasn't. This spine is just so damaged and cracked, and I love this book so much. And I've yet to read Jane Eyre, so Jane Eyre has a beautiful clean back for now. The Count of Monte Cristo. Then we have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. As I said, haven't read this one yet. Then we have some other books. We have Wheatley's Complete Writings. We also have Paradise Lost, and I actually really like this cover as well. I think it looks very beautiful. And then lastly we have The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I actually can't wait to read this book. I think it's going to be a very nice book to read during Halloween. And then we have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I mean, everybody loves this book. I would highly recommend you read it. It's such a beautiful book. I actually really like this edition. It's very cheap on Amazon, but it shows the changing of his face, and most of the editions don't do that. So I really like this edition. The paper is very thin and I don't really like the font, but this is one of the first books that I read and loved so much. Then next to that we have White Sargasso Sea. This is also a very highly anticipated book for me. This book actually follows one of the characters from Jane Eyre, so I first want to read Jane Eyre before I read this one. Then we have The Catcher in the Rye, which is a book I absolutely loved. I would highly recommend you read it. Then moving to the right, we have 2 of these editions. I believe they're called like Writers Collections, something like that. I think they're very nice on my shelf. They're both hardcovers. So again, we have Jane Eyre over here. And then we have Far from the Madding Crowd by Hardy. Then over here we have two children editions. I believe they're called children. Yeah, children editions. These editions are so nice. They're hardcovers and they have gold edges, so they look very fancy. Both of the editions I was given as a gift. So again, thank you so much to the person who gave those to me. Yeah, these editions are just very beautiful and I can't wait to read from them. I again have Emma. Both of my Emma copies have been gifts to me, so I guess people really want me to read Emma and I can't wait to read it. I love Jane Austen's writing, so these people apparently know me very well. Then over here we have this cute little bookmark. This was made by Carolyn from Carolyn Marie Reads. She has her own Etsy shop and I just love this one. It looks so cute. So whenever I'm not using it, it's sitting here on my shelf because I think it's so cute. And then lastly we have two Murakamis. Those are the only Murakamis I own. I've read both of them and I love them so much. I'm actually looking for my next Murakami read, so if you have a recommendation, please let me know. Norwegian Wood and After Dark were both very great books. So that concludes this shelf. And then let's move on to my third classics shelf. Okay, so moving down we have my next shelf of classics. And actually in front of my books we have this little Lego of Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter. This was gifted to me as well, so I think it just looks very cute here on my bookshelf, but it has got to move now. So I'll put it over here. So first here we have My Brilliant Friend. This is actually one of my latest purchases and I'm really excited to read this one. Then we have some more Oscar Wilde. And we have my one and only poem collection that I own. Then we have Purple Hibiscus and then the posthumous memoirs of Bras Cubas by Machado. This book is definitely a 5-star prediction for me. It sounds so much fun, so I can't wait to read it. Then we have The Bell Jar, which I loved. The Prophet by Gibran, which I'm highly looking forward to reading. The Little Prince I loved. And then we just have these kind of tiny editions. So The Little Prince, The Prophet, Death of a Salesman, which I've read. Letters to a Young Poet, which I've read and loved. Some more Rilke. We have The Dark Interval, which I absolutely loved as well. And then we have two modern classics. Now I really love these editions, but why are they different sizes? Like if you make the same edition, why do you make them different sizes? I don't know. So we have Giovanni's Room and we have Chess. Over on the right we have Gibran, more Gibran, and then we go into the Oxford World Classics. Now these editions are very beautiful as well. I think they look very nice on my shelf. So we have some more Austen over here, some Northanger Abbey, and then we have my Tolstoy books. I'm actually planning on reading Anna Karenina this year. I'm thinking of reading it in October. Hopefully I'll finish it by the end of the year and then next year I can start War and Peace. I'm really looking forward to this one. Now that I've read The Count of Monte Cristo, I'm not as intimidated anymore, so I'm gonna try and read War and Peace next year. Then moving on to the right we have the complete illustrated works of Oscar Wilde. And I love Oscar Wilde's writing, so I'm really excited that I have this edition. I also got this one thrifted for €1.50 or something, and I'm really happy that I found that one. In this one there's of course the picture of Dorian Gray and then also his poems and his plays, so I have the complete works of him. And over here we have this beautiful edition of Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, this edition is just so beautiful. I read it last month or 2 months ago, I believe. I read it 2 months ago and I loved it. And then over here we have this beautiful edition of Anna Karenina. I have it displayed over here because it's so beautiful and I'm really happy that I have this edition on my shelves. So that's the third and final classic shelf. So let's move on to my fantasy shelf now. Here we have my fantasy shelf. It's just started raining, so if you can hear it in the background, then I'm really sorry. Actually maybe it's nice ambient sound. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. It's kind of loud, so I hope you don't hear much of it. First on the left we have this little cute plant. It's a fake one, but I think it just looks very cute on my shelf. Then we have The Book Thief over here. Now this is actually a book I'm very intimidated by because it's very big and it has a lot of pages. It's been on my shelves for quite a while and I really need to get to it. And then next to it we have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, which is actually a book I'm currently reading. This one has been on my shelves for a long time as well, so I'm really happy that I'm reading it right now. Then we have this beautiful book, which is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I absolutely love this cover art, so that's why I have it displayed over here. Next to it we have the second book in the series, Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. And if I had the space, I would display this one as well because it's just as beautiful. The cover art is just really special and magical, and I love books like this. Next to it we have Yellow Face, and as I said, this is not a fantasy book, but I think because it's like the same height, it looks very nice next to each other. All of these books are hardbacks, so I think they look nice next to each other, so that's why I put them there. Then we go a little bit to the right and we have the special edition of Throne of Glass, which has art on the inside. It has stenciled edges. It's a very beautiful book, so I'm really happy that I have it. Next to it we have The Inheritance Games, which is a book that I really enjoyed. Again, it's not a fantasy book, it's kind of a mystery book and a romance, but again, it fits very nicely on this shelf, so that's why I placed it over here. Would highly recommend this book. It's very fun. So now I have this book. It's the third in the series, and I bought it secondhand thinking I was gonna read 1 and 2 very quickly, and then I would have 3 to read, but I haven't read 1 and 2 yet, so I'm still debating on what to do with this book. I might just get rid of it. Then we have the Starless Sea over here, which is just a beautiful copy. I love this design. This one has been recommended to me a lot by my best friend, so I really want to read this book. And then we have A Deadly Education, which I hauled in my last book haul. I'm really excited to read this one as well. And then over here we have my 2 Game of Thrones books. I don't know if you can see, but they look kind of identical in like condition, but this one is a first hand and this one is a second hand. So the second hand book has been barely used. The spine is not cracked at all, so I'm really happy that I found it. I actually started reading Game of Thrones, but I still need to finish it, so I really want to finish it this year. It's one of the books that I really want to read this year, because I've been enjoying it so much, so I can't wait to continue. So that's this shelf. So let's move down to my next shelf. Next we have this shelf, which contains my historical fiction and then my BookTok books. So let's start over here on the left. We first have this thing which just controls the twinkly lights. And then we have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I've yet to read The Goldfinch. It also looks very intimidating because it's so big, but I've heard great things from it, so I'm really excited to read this one. And then we have The Secret History, which I'm going to show you. I've tabbed and annotated. I really love this book. Then we have 2 books by Anthony Doerr. Both of these I thrifted. I actually don't know much about these books, but I believe they're very big as well. Then we have The Every by Dave Edgers. I actually got rid of The Circle, which is the first book in the duology, because I thought I wasn't going to get to it very soon. Now I still have the second book because this was gifted to me and it actually has a personal message in the front. So I don't really want to give it away, but I'm actually not sure if I'm going to read it very soon. Then we have The Midnight Library, which is one of the first BookTok books I read. It's kind of short, so I think it's very accessible to start with. Then we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. As you can see, my sister's been reading this book, so I love having books on my shelf to loan to other people. Then on the right we have even more BookTok books. I actually have this little ornament over here. I think it looks very cute, so I keep it on my books over here. Then we have the Cruel Prince trilogy and the first book in the spin-off duology. Then we move on to other BookTok books. Most of these books I did not like. And then again, this series I have the 3rd and the 4th book, and I don't have the 1st and 2nd, so I'm kind of debating of getting rid of these ones unless I find like the 1st or 2nd book within the next couple of months. I am willing to give Crown of Midnight a chance because I read Throne of Glass and this is the 2nd book in that series, so I'm going to give that one a chance. Yeah, maybe I should reread these books, I don't know, but for now I just remember not really liking them. So this is my BookTok bookshelf, so let's move on to the right. This is actually the last shelf of fiction. Here on the left we have a lot of books I don't really know how to categorize, so I just put them under contemporary, but yeah, if I find a better genre to fit them under, then I'll put them over there. So first we have Never Let Me Go. I found this one again thrifted, and I think this copy is very beautiful. It's very big. The font is quite big, so I actually really like these editions. These are the Faber and Faber editions. These are very sturdy. They're very good. I really like the font, so I'm really excited to read from this edition. Then we have this book, which I'm really excited to read. It sounds very, very good. But again, I don't really know what to place it under. So it's just over here for now. And then we have this book, which is actually the first book that has been sent to me by an author. I believe it falls under romance, but I think it looks nicely over here. I can't wait to read this book again. Then we have Unaccustomed Earth by Lahiri. I've heard great things about her. I think she writes very challenging and tough books, but I like that kind of literature. I like books that make you think, and I've heard such reviews from Lahiri's books, so I'm really excited to read this one. Then we have The Dog Who Dared to Dream, which I found in a little library. I read this one last month, I believe. Then we have Like Water for Chocolate, which I read in January. Loved this book. And we have Nervous Conditions, which I thought was amazing. I definitely give it 5 stars, and yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite books of this year. Then we have The Lost Children Archive, which was also gifted to me. Then we have my only book by Alinda, which is City of the Beast. And over to the right, we move on to young adult books. First, we have Komi Can Communicate, which is my first manga that I ever read. I have a whole vlog dedicated to that book, so you can see my reactions there. Then I have this edition, and this is the only Puffins classic that I have. I found this secondhand as well. It's an illustrated edition of Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, I think these Puffin editions are just very cute, and you cannot get them over here, so I'm really happy that I found it secondhand. Then I have 3 books of Arsène Lupin. These are actually not mine, but I am storing them on my bookshelves. I read the Arsène Lupin versus Sherlock Holmes, and I loved that one. So I would highly recommend these, and I would love to read more of Arsène Lupin. And then we have the Twilight trilogy. I read the first one last year. I understand why it's so popular, but it wasn't really for me. Then we have this little bell jar again. It's a Christmas one. Then we have 2 Geek Girl books. These books have been with me for so long. I was gifted them as a child. And now I believe there's a Netflix series or like a film on Geek Girl, so it's getting popular again. Then we have The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which I also got secondhand. I've heard many great things about this. I can't wait to read it. It feels like a very great book for November. It has very November vibes all over it. So I really want to read this one at the end of the year. And then lastly, here on the right, we have The Dollmaker of Krakow. This book I also got at the book sale with my friend. It's a very beautiful hardback. I love this. But as you can see, it's also a winter book. So I can't wait to read this in December. So those are the books on my last fiction shelf. So let's move on downwards to my non-fiction. Okay, so I have 2 non-fiction shelves, so let's quickly go over this one. I have a lot of books for uni. These are all for uni. These are for uni. 2 food-related books, then puzzle books, magazines about psychology, coloring books. Then we have just blank paper for me to draw on, more puzzle books, a French book that I use for French class that I took at uni. I have 6 dictionaries over here and more puzzle books. Then we move on to the left and we have this bag which contains all of my bookmarks that I can use. I have these beautiful bookmarks and I just keep them all over here. So when I need a new bookmark, I'll get it out of this bag. And I also have my TBR jar over here. Then we have non-fiction. We have Eckhart Tolle, which is an author I really like. I'm reading this one right now, and I read this one a couple years ago. And I have some more non-fiction, psychology, 2 philosophy books, psychology, a book out with the brain, psychology, these books which I've read. And then I have this book, which is a book about Tchaikovsky. He's one of the best composers in my opinion. I love his music. He wrote music for example, The Nutcracker, which is an album I just listened through the whole year. And then lastly over here we end with the illustrated edition of The Origin of Species by Darwin. So those are all the non-fiction books that I have over here, and that actually concludes my bookshelves. So here on my desk I actually have this box set of all the Shakespeare books. I showed it in my last book haul. I got it secondhand for a very cheap price, so I'm really happy that I got this one. It has Shakespeare's histories, his comedies and his tragedies, so I just have all of his books here. And then lastly on my dresser I have this stack of books. These are actually all the books I'm currently borrowing from the library. I have them separate from my bookshelf, so I know which ones to prioritize and which ones have to go back to the library. So those are actually all the books that I have in my room. When there's an update, I will make another video, but for now I just want to thank you so much for watching. So I hope you enjoyed seeing what books I own and where they all are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!